Salwete. We are beginning lesson 12. We're skipping over quite a few lines here, all the way from 298 to 558, and I've included summaries in your packet of what happens in those lines. Break it down here. Remember that in our last lesson, the lines that we just read, ending on 297, Hector appeared to Aeneas in a dream and told him that he needed to flee, and after the sea had been wandered, he would establish a new city. But Aeneas has that Bronze Age hero in him, and he prefers an honorable death, fighting within the walls of Troy for his country, and to have this type of death that the Bronze Age heroes want. So he goes out and tries to find some comrades and fight the Greeks as well as they can to the last man. So that's in those lines. That's what happened. Then Aeneas and his comrades gained some initial successes, and on the advice of this Corabus, one of their number, they exchanged their armor for that of the Greeks they had slain, and this trick gives them an advantage and their success increases. Moving along, the Trojans disguised in the Greek armor see Cassandra, the betrothed of Corabus, being dragged from the shrine of Minerva by Ajax and his comrades. This is the Ajax Oileus, right? And in trying to rescue her, Corabus is killed, and the other Trojans are overwhelmed by the weapons of their friends, who are ignorant of their disguise. Then Aeneas and his comrades hasten to the palace of Priam, which is being stormed. Hecuba, that's Priam's wife, and Priam take refuge at the altar. Priam attempts in this part to put on armor and fight, but his wife pretty much laughs at him and tells him he looks ridiculous and tells him to come to the altar. In the court of their palace, they go under this altar, which is under this great tree, but Priam is nevertheless ruthlessly slain by Pyrrhus, who is Achilles' son. And it's a pretty ugly death. Right before killing Priam, he kills his son. Pyrrhus kills Priam's son, that is, and then he drags Priam's body through the blood of his son. It's pretty gory. So Aeneas happens to be up on top of the palace roof watching this whole thing, and we're going to pick up the lines right after he has seen the death of Priam and the death of Priam's son and Hecuba and all this. So we're picking up the lines at this point. So I'll go ahead and read the Latin. We are beginning in 559. We'll be going to 566 in this video, and then continuing. At me tum primum saevus circumstetit horror, obstipui subiit carrigenatoris imago, ut regae quaeum crudeli vulnere vidi, vit exhalantem subiit deserta creussa, et direpta domus et parvi casus Iuli. Okay, I'll stop there. But then, and now our subject, a savage horror. Let's underline that. That's saevus, horror, a savage horror, subject. Circumstedit, stood around me, object. Primum, first, or for the first time. But then, for the first time, a savage horror stood around me. Aeneas is pretty, I think what he means here is Aeneas is pretty experienced at battle. He can hold his own on the battlefield, but here he sees Priam meet his death right before these lines, and now true horror surrounds him, and he's going to think of his own father. Obstipui, I stood agape. One of Aeneas's things that he does, standing agape, being shocked. The image of my dear father. Okay, so image is the subject of my dear father. Those are genitives. Use our purple. Subiit, went up, and you gotta means before me, okay, or came over me. As, ut, translate ut here as, As I saw, notice that the ood is not with a subjunctive, but with an indicative. So we're going to say, as I saw the regem, the king. So this is the subject. It's ego vidi, right? This is perfect active indicative, first person singular. As I saw the king, and that is modified by aiquaium, of the same age. Priam and Anchises, Aeneas' father, are the same age, with a cruel wound. Crudele vulnere, these are ablatives. How did he see him? He saw him with a cruel wound. Let's go together. Crudele vulnere. And now another word that modifies the king, exhalantem, exhaling, and this is the object that this participle takes. It's a present active participle, exhaling his life, dying. One more time on that. I stood agape. The image of my dear father went up before me, or came over me, as I saw the king of equal age with a cruel wound, exhaling his life. Subiit deserta creusa. There went up, again we got anaphora, deserted creusa, meaning she deserted because he's not with her, she's in the house alone. So we do have anaphora going on with subiit here. And because you have the anaphora, then it also eliminates the need to have an et. It's kind of like having an et. There went up the image of my dear father. There went up deserted Creusa. And direpta domus, and the ravaged house. These should have been, subjects, so double underline. And the ravaged home. Now, has it actually been ravaged? Well, Aeneas doesn't know. It hasn't, but he's just imagining this in his mind. And the casus, the misfortune of Parvi Iuli. Now, that's a genitive of little Iulus. Iulus is Aeneas' son. He goes by Iulus or Ascanius. That's supposed to be a C there. Ascanius. He has both names, Iulus and Ascanius. So all these things go up before him. There went up deserted Creusa before me, and the ravaged house, and the misfortune of little Iulus. Respiciet quae sit me circum copia lustro, desueromnes defesset corpora saltu ad terra miseraut ignibus aegra dedere. Respicio, I look back, and this is in present tense here, and I lustro, I survey, I look around. Quae sit, what? Copia, what abundance. Copia means abundance. Think of that. Think of the word cornucopia. That's that horn-shaped basket that all the food's popping out of at Thanksgiving. That's a cornucopia, a horn of abundance. This is a copia, abundance. If something's copious, it means a lot of something. So I look back, respicio, and I survey what abundance, and you got to put in virorum in here, of men. Far has a note on this. What abundance of men? Sit there is around me. And sit is in a present subjunctive because it's in an indirect statement here. Indirect question here. So I look back and I survey what abundance of men there is around me, or there might be around me. Desuer omnes defesi. Everyone tired. Desuere had left, and that is desuerunt. And actually there's several here that are like this, desuerunt. Everyone around me had deserted. And we got an emphasis on the deserted, all of them, because you put it first here. And they had misere, that's miserunt. They had sent their bodies saltu, with a jump, to the ground. So they had sent, these same people, their bodies That's plural, neuter, neuter, plural. Saltu is a ablative. How did they do it? With a jump to the ground. That's accusative with the preposition. Or they dedire. They had given their aigra, and we got to insert corpora here. The corpora take with that too. Their sick bodies or weak bodies. Ignibus, I believe that's dative, to the flames. Given them to the flames. So one more time, they had deserted, all wearied. They all weary had deserted me. You gotta understand. And had sent their bodies by a jump to the ground. So they jumped off the palace roof. Or they had given their sick bodies to the flames. They, the fire consumed them. Okay, that does it for these lines. We'll continue in the next video. Wale.